Joining me tonight on the news are Alan Dershowitz, American lawyer and professor at Harvard Law School. He's also somebody who represented Jeffrey Epstein in the past, and who knows things better about the Epstein files than Alan Dershowitz. Thank you very much, Alan Dershowitz, for joining me tonight on the News Hour. Let me begin by asking you, what's your assessment of the second term of President Donald Trump? How does it bode for American politics going forward?
He's certainly the most energetic and active president we've had for many years. He's also the most divisive. People either hate him or love him. He divides the country, and he's very controversial. He has made lots of promises, and if he keeps them, he will be a great president. If he can bring about a resolution of the conflict in Gaza, if he can bring about a resolution of the conflict in Ukraine, if he can keep Iran from developing a nuclear arsenal, he will go down in history as a great president.
But let me ask you a direct question. Is Donald Trump deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize, as many supporters and admirers, including the likes of Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, are advocating?
I don't think he will get the Nobel Peace Prize, because the Nobel Peace Prize is not offered to deserving people. It's offered on a political basis. It was given to Barack Obama for doing nothing. It was given to Yasser Arafat. It was given to Nelson Mandela, who it turns out was a racist, a bigot, and an anti-Semite. It was given to Doctors Without Borders, which has become a front for Hamas. So the Nobel Peace Prize is very devalued. And if it's not given to Donald Trump, if Donald Trump does manage to achieve peace, then it will prove that it's unworthy. So I think right now it's the Nobel Committee as much as Donald Trump that's on trial.
But on an issue of principle, because Donald Trump proclaims himself to be someone who's done more for the cause of peace in conflicts in different parts of the world, how do you think he has done so far? How do you rate him?
Well, he's certainly put in a lot of effort, and he's brought some of the right people to help him. He is trying very hard to bring about a peace in Gaza. He did manage to get a ceasefire that seems to be holding in Iran, and he has not so far succeeded in Ukraine, but it's still a work in progress. So I'm hoping that he can succeed in all three areas.
But the criticism against Trump is that he hasn't really been a broker for peace. The Palestinians and others in the Arab world actually believe that he has not restrained Israel during its retaliation in Gaza. He's also been criticized for involving America directly in the conflict with Iran by attacking its nuclear facilities. On a matter of principle, I reiterate, you may have reservations about the Nobel Committee, but do you think Trump's actions are Nobel-worthy?
Well, I think he was absolutely right in Iran to help destroy the nuclear reactor, and that would probably help to promote peace. Sometimes peace requires military action, as it has in the past. Israel destroyed Iraq's nuclear reactor and Syria's nuclear reactor, and both of those brought about peace for a long period of time between Israel and its enemies. As far as Gaza is concerned, the fault lies almost entirely with Hamas. If they had not broken the ceasefire and killed 1,200 people, kidnapped 250, there wouldn't be a war in Gaza. If they hadn't used human shields and didn't hide their fighters in tunnels. Remember what Hamas's policy is. They build tunnels for their fighters, but they don't allow the civilians into the tunnels because Hamas wants to see civilians die.
The U.S. government has recently announced the formal closure of the Epstein case, claiming there is no client list despite intense public speculation and demand for transparency. There may not have been a list, but there were clients. Do you believe this is an act of suppression by the Trump administration? Why is this happening?
I think it's happening because the courts, not the administration, has imposed restrictions on what could be released. For example, I've seen complaints and FBI investigations and documents disclosing the names of certain people, but the courts have refused to unredact it. Redacting means whiting it out or blacking it out. And so the responsibility lies with the courts, not with the administration. The administration has properly disclosed the information that they have. Now, I know the names that have been redacted because I was one of Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers, and there are no people in the list that are today prominent in politics. So I think if all the names were to be revealed, it would not be a smoking gun. Certainly Donald Trump is not involved. Certainly Bill Clinton is not involved. These are not people. No current people in government are involved on the lists. I know because I know essentially who's on these lists. Also, it's certainly not true that Jeffrey Epstein was ever a source for intelligence, either the CIA or the Shin Bet or the Mossad. And I know also that there are no sex videotapes. There are videotapes, but they were of his major public part of his house because there had been some theft and the police installed video cameras. So, and finally, Jeffrey Epstein was not murdered. He committed suicide, perhaps with the help of jailers. But I think that the information that's not been disclosed is very, very minor compared to the information that's already been disclosed. So I think people are making much more of an issue of it than it deserves.
But one of those people who's made this a public issue is Elon Musk, a one-time great friend of President Trump, and he's publicly pledged to make exposing the Epstein scandal a high priority if the America Party gains political traction. He's also questioned how the public can trust Donald Trump if he continues to withhold the Epstein files. Is this much ado about nothing, really?
Much ado about even less than nothing. There is nothing in the files and if he makes a political issue of it, he will be made a fool of. There's nothing there. The only names that have been withheld are a few people who were withheld because there was no real evidence against them. The other thing that's being withheld is information, negative information about some of the accusers, because the courts have said that we don't want information about the victims to be disclosed. So there's no smoking gun here, and anybody who tries to base a campaign on the Epstein files will be disappointed.
Well, so let me also ask you, why do you think there is so much consternation within the MAGA camp in the United States? Because they appear to be very upset at the fact that the files are not being disclosed. The MAGA camp has the Attorney General Pam Bondi and even the likes of Kash Patel, the FBI director, who have been reported to be very upset about the non-disclosure of the files. It was being speculated that he might resign, but Kash Patel has clarified that he will not. What do you have to say about the divide that we are seeing within the Make America Great Again camp?
Well, I think the problem is that before they came to power, a number of the people, the head of the FBI and his assistant, and even Trump's own son, talked about revealing the files and talked about there being a client list and all of that. And it turns out there aren't. And so now they're in a difficult position and they have to say that maybe material has been withheld. But I think all the material should be disclosed. Everything should be disclosed. And I think the people will be very disappointed to see how little there is in there that's of any public interest. The vast majority of names have already been disclosed, and those that haven't been have been largely withheld by the courts, not by the administration.
So how does that help transparency if what is with the courts stays with the courts and the public doesn't get to see it?
It should, and I think there is more that they can do. I think they can go to the courts and ask to have the names released and ask to have everything released. The one thing that wouldn't be fair would be to release the name of the people who have been accused without disclosing information that's negative about the accusers. If all the information comes out, then the public can assess the truth or falsity of the accusations based on the credibility of the accusers. But to disclose just the names of the accused without the information about the accusers would be extremely unfair.
Well, then, Professor Dershowitz, you are bound by confidentiality clause as you were the lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein, and you have said so on many occasions. But since you've said that any disclosure is not going to embarrass the current administration, isn't it in Trump's administration's interest to come across as a transparent government and release the names as opposed to those who think this will embarrass them? Don't you agree?
I completely agree. I think that disclosure of all the information will help Donald Trump, will help Pam Bondi, will help the administration. The only people who will be hurt are individuals who have been either falsely accused or the false accusers whose information and credibility will be tarnished. But the administration will not be hurt by full and complete disclosure.
But the most important question, Professor, do you believe Epstein was given a long rope? Do you believe he was being protected? Did he receive any political patronage? There is criticism that this went on for far too long and that his crimes, even if they had been detected, not enough action had been taken against him.
There's nothing to that at all. Action was taken. He was punished. He got 18 months in prison, had to register as a sex offender. He was then arrested, probably would have been convicted, maybe not, who knows. But he committed suicide, so we'll never know in the end. But nobody protected him, and the government went after him very, very strongly when they got the information about him. So it's a complete myth that he was given a sweetheart deal or that he was given special preference. The only reason that deal was made is because the government couldn't prove that he had transported young women across state lines. And in order to get a federal crime, you have to prove that he took women across state lines. And most of the people that he had sex with in Florida. They were people from Palm Beach, local people. And so you could charge him with a state crime, but you couldn't get a successful prosecution for a federal crime.
Let me also ask you, another policy of Trump is to use tariffs literally as a beating stick for countries. India and the United States have somehow decided that they will go on in a bilateral way, negotiating this a little bit more. But some of the other countries have been on the receiving end of high tariffs. Do you believe there is a strong rationale and justification for Trump's actions on the tariff front?
I think Trump has been very anxious to make sure that every country treats the United States fairly. He succeeded in NATO by getting the European countries to raise their contributions. Now he's using that with Ukraine. He has gotten the Ukrainians to get military material from NATO and to have the European countries pay for it. So I think he sees his use of economic power as a way of benefiting the United States. Only time will tell whether it benefits the world and benefits world peace. So I think it's a work in progress.
Coming to American politics, Elon Musk now launching a new American party called the America Party. How do you think this will play out as far as the Republican base is concerned and the future of American politics?
No third party has succeeded in modern American history. And so I think Elon Musk is simply trying to make it more difficult for the Republicans, because if he starts a new party, it will obviously take votes from the Republicans. I don't think it's going to happen in the end. I think basically we are a two-party country, and I think we'll remain that.
So let me also ask you, do you see a change in America's constitution and a third term for President Donald Trump. He's very keen on that. Do you see that happening?
Absolutely not. Zero chance of that happening. He won't be able to amend the Constitution because you need a supermajority to do that, which he couldn't get, and the courts would prevent him from running, and even his own base would not vote for him. So it would be a foolish thing to do, and he's not a foolish man. He's not going to do it. So forget about it. He will not run for a third term.
Thank you very much, Professor, for joining me on the News Hour and putting to rest some of the bigger questions. But I don't know if those questions will ever take a break. Thank you. Good night.